Greetings, webheads, and welcome to episode 25 of Witty Banter, yet another Marvel Crisis Protocol podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Alex.
I'm David.
I'm Kick-Ass.
We are here to help you get better at and have more fun with your Crisis Protocol. So, a little bit of a roadmap here, webheads. There's been a lot of news out about some news that's made about how crises are going to change. Some of the new tactics cards, new secures, new extracts, as well as the schedule for them. We are going to discuss that, but since we don't know everything yet, we're just going to kind of hold fire, and then we're going to do a big whole update once AMG lets us know what all is coming and what's happening. That's going to be happening in pretty short order, so we thought that made more sense, and we still are getting a little bit of a fire hose of stuff. So we're going to talk about the new Inhumans today. So we'll go over that for you today. The crisis information will come, but we'll get it to you once we know everything, as opposed to just kind of guessing. Before we get started, just a quick little bit of business. If you could, we would really appreciate it if you would like us, would rate us, and review us on your podcatcher of choice. That would help other people come and find us so we can help grow the community. We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions, if you've got rosters that you'd like us to dojo, you can reach out to us at all the socials at Witty Bantercast. You can contact us at wittybantercast@gmail.com. And we have a Patreon. If you want to help us out, we can give you priority access for questions, for dojoing rosters, as well as a bunch of other good stuff. You can reach us there at patreon.com/wittybantercast. Okay, so enough business. We've got 4 new Inhumans. Let's go ahead and we'll start with. So we have King Black Bolt, Gorgon, Karnak, and Maximus the Mad. Weirdly, King Black Bolt is not a king, nor is he a leader. Maximus is. So I guess we start with Maximus the Mad? Does that make sense, guys?
Maybe we start with. I was thinking maybe we start with like Bolt and then hit Maximus at the end, because then we can talk about his leadership.
Okay. All right. King Black Bolt it is. All right. So let's just real quick go through what his card. It's King Black Bolt, Blackagar Boltagon, still leading to one of the best lines from Multiverse of Madness. Blackagar, what now? He's got 4 physical, 4 energy, 4 mystic, 7 health, size 2. He's a medium base. He's got things are the same on his injured side, except he's got 8 health instead of 7. He is a 6 threat. He's got 2 basic attacks. His gainer is Sonic Blast. It's a beam 4, 5 dice. After the attack is resolved, he gains a power on a wild. He gets a push after the attack is resolved. If the target character is size 3 or less, it can be pushed away short. His spender is Wrath of the Midnight King. Range 3, 8 dice, 4 power. After the attack is resolved, the character may advance medium. On a wild, he gets a throw. Before damage is dealt, the character may throw the target character short. David, thoughts about King Black Bolt's stats and his attacks?
I mean, he's nothing special as far as like a 6 threat goes. I mean, 4s is good. He's got decent health. It's not amazing. His gainer is pretty good. The push is nice on it. He can bump its dice up so it can do a little bit more damage, which I like.
Yeah, I guess actually we probably should touch at least that one superpower. He's got one hit. Increase the volume is a 3 power superpower. During the next attack action made by this character this turn, add 2 dice to the attack rolls. So
Yeah,
and
so that works on the entire beam, which is pretty good.
right. So for 3 power, he basically it's a 8 dice beam 4. That seems pretty solid.
It's
7 dice.
7
one.
dice. 7 dice with 1 reroll.
Oh, 7 dice. 7 dice. Math is hard.
Yeah, it's like a poor man's 8.
Yeah, if you roll well, 7 dice feels like 8. Or
I
if you
guess a
roll the way,
reroll.
or if you roll the way I do, 8 dice usually feels like 7.
There you go.
So how does that and that works both for his spender or his gainer and his spender. JP, what do you think of his attack suite?
7 dice beams that push on wilds are pretty good. Like beam 4s. I think it being a gainer is going to be, he's just going to be able to spam, increase the volume with it a lot. So I like it. It's a lot of control. It's push away. So we don't have the omnidirectional silliness that we've been seeing lately, which is fine. Like beam 4 push. I'm here for it. Spender's good. Like advancing medium after an attack is really good. It's just built-in hit and run. And it's got a throw on it. Like it's solid. He's good.
Yeah, size
And
unrestricted.
unrestricted.
Yeah.
And with him being a medium base, he gets a lot more distance than your just small base models. It can
It's also
really get
be-
him in a good position.
Yeah. It's also be 4 damage throw also.
Yep.
Okay.
And him having hit and run also means he can line up beams pretty easily too.
Yeah, between
Which is
having
good.
hit and run and the medium advance on his Wrath of the Midnight King, he's really mobile. He's going to be able to do a lot.
Yeah, let's go through his other two superpowers are hit and run. Pretty straightforward for 2 power. It's an action. He can make an attack action followed by a move action once per turn. And then telepathic command for 2 power. He can choose another allied character within 4. That character advances short. Can only be used once per turn. He's an Inhuman, so he rerolls 1 die attack or defense rolls. He has anti-graviton control. When he would suffer damage, reduce it by 1 to a minimum of 1, and he gets an extra power in the power phase. He is an Inhuman King. At the start of the activation phase, he can choose another allied character with the Inhuman superpower who gets to remove a special condition. And he has flight and is immune to poison. Alex, what stands out with you with the rest of his power suite?
The one that really stands out to me right away is the telepathic command. It gives Inhumans a little bit more maneuverability on placement and because I think it's what Medusa and Lockjaw are the only 2 that can manipulate around each other. Like Lockjaw can port others, and Medusa pops off of others. No, I like the option to be able to move other models. It's super neat. And then removing the condition is fantastic.
Well, there's a bit of a theme there too, because Maximus has a thing that can move allies too.
Yeah.
And since you're removing a condition off of somebody else, you could take a stagger off of somebody else, right?
You could, yeah, because it's at the start of the activation phase.
The timing's weird.
It is super weird. It gives me flashbacks to Blind Obsession.
Yeah. So the activation phase is not when a character activates, but at the start of the activation phase. That's the phase in which all characters activate. So you have to have been staggered the previous round
Right.
to be able to remove it. And if you were staggered later in the current round, you've missed your window to remove it. So it's cool. I like it. It's neat. I like how they did it. It gives them like a little, I don't know, it's kind of flavorful. It'll be good in certain circumstances for sure.
Well, and the other thing is you don't have to be affiliated Inhumans to use it. Like you just need an Inhuman character with the rule.
Right.
Yeah, and he
So-
can target himself, so
Yeah, that's true because he's allied to himself. So yeah, so he could remove one from himself. I didn't think about that.
I will say him having DR is, I mean, DR's so freaking good. It's like is it him and Hulkbuster are the only 6 threats with DR? Oh, I guess Thanos.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to think of Thanos as a 6th threat because he's never played that way.
But like it's a small group of, like I mean DR's good.
Well, and he's got 4s across the board and a total of, oh man, you're gonna make me do math again. 15 health. I mean that seems like he's gonna stick around for a while.
Well, and his reroll works defensively too, so right? It's like 4
Right.
defense with a reroll and DR.
Right.
Old
So-
Bolt had 15 health as well, right? He was 6'9". I'm pretty sure.
Is he 6'9"? I thought he was 5'9". Or did
No,
they bump him up
they
to
bumped
6?
him.
They bumped his
Okay,
health to
okay.
6.
Oh yeah, I remember that because they were like, "Oh yeah, we really want to get Black Bolt on his injured side so he can do all of his cool stuff," and then we gave him a help.
Yep.
Yeah. They buffed his health and gave him the best bodyguard in the game. Yeah, so Old Bolt had the same amount of health, and he could add 2 dice to his dice pool, which is not as good as DR, but it's still pretty good. And he was 1 less threat, so
Yeah. Okay. So any kind of we'll move on to his tactics card in a second, but any kind of how do we think King Black Bolt compares to kind of the other 6 threats in the game?
I think he's super solid for a 6th threat. Like, I don't think he's bad. I don't know. Actually, honestly, I think he'll get splashed more than people think. It's not going to be everywhere, but I think he'll definitely get splashed because that beam with its pushes is just ridiculous.
He is a control nightmare. Like he can do so much control. Like it's so good.
He comes with 1 tactics card, Genetic Prophecy. It is an Inhumans card. It is reactive. During the power phase, if you have at least 2 fewer victory points than your opponent, an allied Blackagar Boltagon may play this card. You gain 2 victory points. This round, this character cannot make attack actions. So, I think I'm trying to think if there's any other card that hands out 2 victory points. Just here you go. Here's 2 victory points. I know there's some that do 1, and you can end up with 2 or more. But is this the first time that we've had a card that just says here's 2 victory points, knock your socks off?
Kinda. I mean, it's definitely the only one that I can think of that you don't have to do anything because
Right.
they've got their Terra Genesis card too that gives them 2 victory points, but
Mhm.
it requires dazing or KOing
Right.
an enemy model that had an objective.
And it's at least 2 fewer, so by definition it can't be I play this card, I win. So what do we think? Is this good?
I like it. I think it's good. It's one of the few where there's definitely more of a comeback mechanic, or just like a comeback option. It stinks that Black Bolt can't make any attacks in that turn, but I mean he can go do other things, I guess. But I don't know. I think it's good. It may not be taken in your 5 every time, but I can see it having a place for your 10.
Well, and it's Blackagon or Boltagon, so either Black Bolt could play it.
Well, I think it's an interesting card. Like maybe there's like a window where you play it where you think, okay, Bolt's probably not going to have an activation this round because you
Right.
played in the power phase. So
Right.
maybe you go, okay, well now he's not going to have an activation. Maybe I'll just play this card and get 2 VP, right?
That makes sense. JP, what do you think?
I don't know. It's hard to weigh this card because the way they designed it, you're playing from behind. So usually when a person's playing from behind, they're either just like worse at scenario, but typically they're playing the beatdown role. So you're assuming you're playing beatdown, and then you are making the points up later by sacrificing beatdown. So I don't know. Like any card that says gain 2 VPs, you can't just write it off. But I feel like the card is gonna be a little tricky to play. I could be totally wrong, but that's my initial impression. I don't know. The timing just seems weird to me, and the restriction on not having your 6th threat do beat down things when you're behind on score. Like usually, like if I can activate my 6th threat and like beat you down, I can probably make up points also by just beating you down and like going with my game plan instead of just sacrificing 2 7-dice beam attacks with rerolls. Like I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Two 7-dice beams is a lot to give up.
Yeah, although I mean if you have an activation with a character and you're using your 2 7-dice beams or whatever, and at the end of it, if at the end of the activation you think, okay, that activation got me to victory, you're probably thinking that's a pretty successful activation.
I mean, the other thing is, it's not like it doesn't sacrifice his activation, so he can still do stuff. He just can't attack.
I mean, he can move twice, right?
He can move twice. He can.
I guess he can advance somebody.
Yeah, or like the original Black Bolt can just be. He can just be a bodyguard monster for a turn
if he's not injured.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate the card. I don't know. I'll have to see it. It's weird. It's weird in my brain.
Yeah. Okay. Any other kind of closing thoughts on King Black Bolt before we move on?
I really like his play pattern. Like I like the ability of going, well, okay, I'm gonna hit and run a beam and then like generate enough power to like turn up the volume and do another beam and maybe move someone. Like that's a pretty good play pattern.
Yeah, it seems like he's going to be pretty busy moving himself around and then moving everybody else around too. JP, anything else on King Black Bolt?
I think a lot of people. He kind of reminds me of like Fat Thor, where he's like a bigger, badder version of an old leader, and I feel like people, especially Inhumans, I mean, you could kind of make the same argument for old Asgard because they only had one leader, and Thor's leadership was kind of sort of unique. Not kind of sort of not unique like not unique like Inhumans, but I guess Inhumans is sort of not unique either because there's other power saving or power transferring leaderships, but I guess what I'm trying to say is people are going to have to they might be in for like a shock when they don't have the old Black Bolt leadership, kind of like when these Midnight Suns players will go to Elsa and don't have bump anymore. It's just going to be an adjustment for them. I think he will find success though because he's so good, but it's going to be an adjustment. And old Bolt's so good too.
Yeah,
that it's going to be weird, but I think he'll get there.
Well, and original Black Bolt's leadership, I think, is just so hardwired into how people play. I think it'll be hard to unlearn it. I think that's part of what you're trying to say too.
That is, yes.
Alex, any closing thoughts on King Black Bolt?
No, only because I want to wait until we get to Mad Max.
We can do that, but along the way, we're going to stop at Karnak. Karnak is Karnak Mandur Azur. He is 3 physical, 3 energy, 4 mystic, 5 health, size 2, medium. He is a 3 threat. His stats stay the same on his backside. He's got 2 attacks. First is a builder. It's a physical called Shattering Strike. Range 2, strength 5, power equal to damage dealt. On a wild, he pushes the target character away short. His spender is Let Me Show You Your Flaw. Range 3, 7 dice, 4 power. When calculating successes for this attack, the character adds the number of skulls in both the attack and defense rolls to its total successes. JP, what are your first thoughts on his stat line and his attack suite?
His stat line is pretty average. His attack suite looks fairly average dice wise. The thing that sticks out to me is the any size push.
Yep.
On a strike on a 3 threat is kind of crazy.
David,
Yeah, it's like him and Tony are the only 3 threats that can push any size, right?
I think so, yeah.
I think so. Tony can just do it from further away.
And the spender's not bad. The spender's deceivingly deadly if they roll into skulls or yeah. Or if you roll into skulls. Like anybody who's played against Magic knows that it can just spike. And hers is 6, his is 7, so I mean his is physical, but
so if he's got 7 dice in his plus his reroll. And then you're averaging 3 to 4 dice. You're probably statistically going to be able to count on at least 1 extra success that you otherwise wouldn't have at 1 point something. So between 1 and 2 extra successes, it seems pretty good on a 3 threat.
Yeah, 100%. That puts it up to like maybe, I mean, mathematically that puts it up to like 9 to 10 dice attack ish.
Something like that.
Something like that, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's 4 power, so it's not cheap.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of the 3 threat spenders are around 4-ish.
Yeah. Alex, what do you think?
Sorry, I didn't want to sneeze in everybody's ear.
We all appreciate that.
I like his kit and his attack suite. I mean, it's pretty basic, but not in a bad way. Because I mean, we've seen basic ones in a bad way, like I don't know, Sin, for example. I just think her stat line is terrible. But that's for a different time. Yeah, I think he's super solid for a 3 threat.
He's got 3 superpowers. He's got meditate for an action. He gets to gain 2 power, can use once per turn. He has teachings of the 3 worlds. Costs you 4 power. After another allied character within 3 makes an attack or a defense roll, during the calculate success step, this character may use the superpower. The allied character may add up to 2 of their skull results to its total successes. And then pinpoint weaknesses. For 2 power, after an attack against this character is resolved, or this character resolves an attack, it may use this superpower. Place a weakness token on or move an existing weakness token to the attacking or defending enemy character. This character may only have 1 weakness token in play at time. What is a weakness token, you say? Well, that's a good question. Analyzing strike. When this character attacks or defends against an attack from an enemy character with a weakness token, this character rolls 3 additional dice. After the attack is resolved, the weakness token is removed. He's an Inhuman, so he gets to reroll 1 die and attack. And he has martial artist, so if he's defending against a physical energy within 2, he gets to add blanks to his defense, or adds blanks in its defense roll to its total successes. So that was a lot. David, what do you think of his superpower suite, and how does that kind of inform the usefulness of the character?
So first off, I think this character is fantastic. I think he's really good. He is gonna be really good if he's like in a 1v1 situation. Like if he's facing just one other character on like a flank or something, he's gonna be hard to deal with.
So what specifically, is there something specific? Is that just because of the character kit as a whole, or is there something specific that you're looking at that makes you think that?
Well, the way his weakness token thing works, right? So because he's got martial artist and he's adding 3 dice, right? So all of a sudden his defenses are becoming, 6, 6, 7. Well, the 7 don't count blanks, but for the other 2 you do. Like that, the dice math is just like, it's going to be really difficult to get damage in onto him. And then when he's punching them back, he's going to be throwing either 10 or 8 dice at you, right? Like, and the ability to just push you off, like push you away, and it doesn't matter what your size is. Plus, he's got a reroll. Like,
Right.
The only thing with this weakness token thing is it's not a may when you use it. So when somebody attacks you and they have the weakness token on them, you have to use it.
Right. And it's after the attack is resolved, the weakness token is removed. So it has to, then he can't put another weakness token out until there's another attack.
No, you can do it.
Can you?
Yeah, you could totally chain it because you just since it's your timing step, you can pick which one you want to do.
One. So as long as you're spending the power, you can use it. So if you're kind of forced to burn the token for being attacked, if you've got the extra 2 power, you just can put the weakness token right back out.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Okay. JP, what do you think?
I agree. I guess the 2 things that he's gonna be a beater. The 2 things that stand out to me are kind of what David was talking about with the mandatory pinpoint weakness, and also the push on a shattering strike is mandatory as well. So if you roll up and, well, if you're standing still and you punch somebody and you pinpoint weakness, you roll 8 dice, you roll a wild in there. If they're not backstopped, you're pushing them off the point. You're not gonna be able to double attack them.
Right.
You might be able to get a spender in there if they're still within range 3, depending on their base size and how far away you were at the start of the attack. But double shattering strike, unless you're backstopping them, might not be something you can really count on. Although, if you do backstop them, throwing 2 8-dice strikes with a reroll on each against, or with a 3 threat is pretty good. The other thing that we didn't say, because it's not on his card, and I don't really know Karnak's backstory, but he's conspicuously missing immune poison. I don't know. All these other guys have immune poison. Maybe Karnak just.
Oh my god, you're right.
maybe-
That's a very good point. All
Oh,
the other
yeah.
Inhumans are immune to poison. He's not.
I don't know what his deal is.
What's interesting?
He's the weak pup.
He's the one who doesn't like the Terrigen Miss. What the heck? Alex, what do you think of Karnak?
This guy is so freaking cool. I think they did a great job with his superpowers. I don't think any of them are overpowered. Um, None of them are bad. Like, he is a super solid 3 threat. I can see him getting splashed quite often as a 3 threat. And his tactics card that we'll be discussing soon will probably help solidify it even more. And he looks at Iron Fist and just laughs at him with how great of a martial artist he is in comparison to Iron Fist.
Yeah, that weakness token mechanic, man, he can for a 3 threat, he's going to be throwing a lot of dice around.
Yeah, he's kind of, the way they built him, he kind of feels like a monk or something. Like a kind of a martial artist, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have any action economy, which usually those types of characters do. But other than that, I mean, he feels like just a beat 'em up kind of martial arts dude.
Mm-hmm.
That Teachings of the Three Worlds is pretty interesting. It's really expensive and it's very niche, but man, when you roll those 2 skulls and Karnak's just like spend 4, they count as successes, it's gonna feel really good.
And you get perfect timing on that too, because it happens
Yeah.
at the calculate success step.
I mean,
Right.
thank God nobody would ever use that shit.
Right.
4 power.
Does he have a power generation problem?
I don't think so, because he can, well, not any more
I
than
would
any other 3
say,
threat.
yeah, I would say not any more than any other 3 threat. Because I mean, the extra dice he gets with the weakness token. If it weren't for that, I would say he has a power problem. Because like the meditate helps with the power issues, but it eats up his action. I think the weakness token kind of makes up for that then at that point, because the extra dice should help with power generation on the builder.
I think I'd take the opposite stance on that one. Because 3 dice is gonna statistically be about 1.5 something successes.
Right, and
So spending 2 to gain 1.5, it's net negative, but
yeah, and it kind of seems like he's going to be pinpointing weakness all the time, which means he's just going to be throwing 2 power all over the place. And I mean, I get that he you know I that's the only thing. As I was through this, the Teaching of the Three Worlds seems really cool, but it's hard to imagine a time other than when he's been dazed that he's going to have 4.
yeah, I think, well, when you can throw 8 dice attacks with a reroll, you're gonna get some spikes.
Yeah.
Like anybody who's played Juggernaut, I mean, sometimes it just happens, and you just pace somebody for 6,
Yeah.
and now you're sitting on a shitload of power. Like,
Yeah,
it's gonna
I was
happen.
gonna say, like, after playing Magic as War, she spiked out a lot. And I was just gonna mention, how often do we see the averages of 1.75 power coming up on the extra dice?
And I suppose we did just sort of hand wave away the fact that, oh, here's a 3 threat that's having an 8 dice builder.
And the plus 3 dice on that spender, man, 10 dice counting skulls on attack and defense with
Yep.
a reroll is going to
Yeah.
be it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't wait to put him on the table and give new Loki a taste of his own medicine. Yeah, I'm gonna count your skulls too, motherfucker.
His tactics card is Royal Guardians. It is unaffiliated reactive. When an allied character is targeted by an attack and is within 3 of an allied Karnak and or an allied Gorgon, Karnak or Gorgon may spend 3 to play this card. Place the character that played this card within 1 of the allied character. The placed character becomes the target of the attack. After the attack is resolved, if Karnak was placed and is not dazed and there are no allied weakness tokens on the battlefield, the attacking character gains a weakness token. After the attack is resolved, if Gorgon was placed and is not dazed, the attacking character gains shock and stun. We'll put a pin in the Gorgon part of it, but David, what do we think of Royal Guardians as Karnak plays it?
I mean, the good thing about this card is when you place, you're going to place within 1, so you're going to get your martial arts, right? So,
Right.
I mean, I like it. I mean, it's just heroes, right?
Right.
Kinda.
And anytime you're shifting an attack, like that's always going to be good. And I think Karnak is one of those characters that you want to be getting attacked so he can throw weakness tokens on you outside of his activation. Because, like, say you're like, okay, I'm going to play this card and you're going to get a weakness token. And then now I get to activate Karnak and I get to basically throw a 8 dice builder at you without having to like spend the extra power to already have a weakness token on you.
So the wording on the card's a little. It's like if there are no allied weakness tokens on the battlefield. So if somebody else has got a weakness token on them, you can't use this card to pull it over to the character that's doing the attacking. So it's a little more restrictive, but yeah, it is it still has that effect.
It also costs 3, and Karnak or Gorgon have to spend the power.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of sucks for them.
So, does that mean that like can Gorgon spend the 3 to have Karnak do the heroes for hire?
No. Because it says place the character that played this card.
Oh, and you have to spend the 3 to play the card. Okay, I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. Okay. What do you think, JP, of the card?
It's good. It's like you're taking a 3 threat and you're making them the target of an attack instead of something that's bigger. Like,
Right.
I mean, it's sacrifice kind of like it's fine.
Yeah,
I don't
even
think
if
it's
even if you take everything else out of it, it's still sacrifice plus you're getting to relocate the character.
yeah. I mean, it's not Heroes is still the best one for sure, but anytime there's a card and like so other characters have come out with cards like this too, and I think they're still good, but they're a little the one I'm thinking of is Namor, right? So he's a 5 threat who's not super tanky and he becomes the target of the attack. It gets kind of weird. It's still a good card, but when you have a card like this attached to a 3 threat, it makes the opportunity cost a lot easier to swallow if your 3 threat gets dazed.
Right. Alex, what do you think?
Well, JP and David covered it all. I think it's a good card. It's
Okay.
it's neat on Karnak. Yeah, I think it's good.
Not for nothing, the Gorgon part where you're shocking and stunning someone, you're not applying damage to them. So, like, the stun becomes a little bit more valuable?
Yeah, I mean it's after the attack is resolved, so they still get to do a full builder, but it's still good. Like if a lot of times you'll do it. Well, heroes for hire, I think you're incentivized to use it on the first attack because you can throw them away and get them outside of range of for their second attack. This one, I'm not quite sure. Usually, sacrifice gets played on a second attack. If the target lives, then you just sack, and then they're guaranteed to live. So I don't know. I don't know about the timing on this one yet. I feel like it's probably going to be saving your dude on the second attack, like sacrifice more often. So I don't know how good this stun and I guess you are incentivized to do it on the first attack though. If you're shocking them, you can land a shock, and their second attack won't be as good. And then
Right.
stun, they won't be able to gain her, or they won't be able to build her for full power on the second attack either. So I could see maybe Gorgon wanting to use it on the first attack, and possibly Karnak waiting. I don't know. I'd have to think about it some more, but yeah, they're cool effects. I like them.
Uh, any kind of closing thoughts on Karnak, David?
I think Karnak, just by looking at him, he looks pretty good in something like Webs. I really like the extra defensive reroll from the Miles leadership, plus the like ability to push things, and he can like hold a flank by himself. And like I also like the fact that, like there could be like a clutch moment where one of your webs rolls like 2 skulls on a reroll or something, and then he saves them, right?
Yep. JP, what do you think? Any kind of closing thoughts on Karnak?
Um, he kind of makes me think of Encanto a little bit.
He does feel like the character in the box is going to get splashed the most.
Like they both don't have any kind of action economy, but they're both kind of pushed in other areas. I think he'll be. And they both have control. Obviously, Encanto's like has range force shenanigans, but
Right.
I think he's really good. Like I don't know how much you can ask for a 3 threat at this point. Like he does a lot of heavy lifting. The only thing people are going to complain about is his lack of action compression, but he would probably be too good if he had charge with eight dice builders. Like, yeah.
Alex, what do you any kind of last thoughts on Karnak?
No, but I would like to hear from the fans and listeners that know more than I do. Why is he not immune to poison?
Yeah, there's got to be a lore reason for that. I bet. I'm anxious to hear what that is. So, yeah, let us know what webheads the Inhumans experts among us. Please let us know. Let's move on then to Gorgon. Gorgon is Gorgon Petragon. 4 physical, 3 energy, 3 mystic, 6 health, size 2, medium move. He's a 3 threat. Stats stay the same, except he's got 5 health on the back for 11 total. He's got 3 attacks. His builder is Mace Strike. It's physical. Range 2, 5 dice. Power equal damage dealt. And on a wild, after the attack is resolved, the target character gains stun. He has Hoofquake, which is a beam 3, 4 dice energy attack. On a wild, after the attack is resolved, the character gets shock. And then his spender is Physical God Crusher. Range 3, 8 dice, costs you 4. After the attack is resolved, if the target character is size 4 or less, The character may throw it away short, and on a wild, you get a stagger. After the attack is resolved, the character gains the stagger special condition. Alex, what do you think of his stat line and of his attack suite?
Stat line looks pretty good. It stinks that he goes to 5 health on his injured side, but whatever. I like it's pretty basic and solid for a tank like character. For a 3 threat that is, and his attack suite is, I think it's good. Builder pretty basic. It gives out stun though, which I really like. There's not too many builders that I can think of that hand out stun, especially on a 3 threat. And then his I'm gonna call it a bad dynamo beam. Not to say that the attack is bad, it's just like a worse version of Dynamo's beam.
That's what I was
Super
thinking the
good.
same thing.
And then hey, just giving out those shocks is super big, especially for Inhumans, because it's kind of doubling up on their defensive rerolls. Like it's helping their defensive rerolls a little bit better because the -1 dice and then the defensive reroll on top of it is just nice little extra stacking with it. Well, that spender is freaking amazing though. You just get an auto throw with it, and you get to possibly stagger on wild. I mean, that spender is just awesome.
It's literally a Hulk smash. Like on a 3 threat, which is ridiculous.
Is Hulk Smash range 3?
Okay, Hulk smash is range 2.
Hulk Smash is range 2, and the throw is a wild omnidirectional.
Yes.
This is guaranteed throw, but it's away. And then both of them have a wild stagger. And this has range 3 instead of 2. It's amazing.
It's just so good.
Yeah, that seems pretty good.
What is Ursa's? I think we need to draw a comparison to that.
Well, Ursa's is going to be worse, I'll tell you that much.
Okay, Ursa's is range 2, 7 dice, 3 power. Before damage is dealt, size 4, throw target character short, omnidirectional. After attack is resolved, target character gains stagger. So I think Ursa's is better. It is better for sure.
I haven't looked at it in a while, so I just assumed it was going to be worse.
It's shorter range, it's 1 less die, but it's auto stagger, auto throw.
Yeah,
and one less power. So like the power to dice ratio is actually better. And anytime you can spam, like shit, look at Black Cat. Like that spender's stupid. Anytime you can spam a stagger spender, it's better than having more dice.
Well, the other thing with Ursa's a 4 threat. So like,
yes, that's true.
Yeah,
that is true. Yeah, I mean this spender is awesome. It is a god crusher.
We'll run through the rest of his superpowers and it won't take long. He's got a charge, 2 power move followed by an attack once per turn. You're gonna have to deal with me first. 2 power enemy character within 2 targets another ally with an attack. This character becomes the target, so he's got a taunt. He's got his Inhuman reroll for attack or defense, and he is immune to poison. So JP, how does Gorgon stack up kind of on the whole as a 3 threat compared to Karnak, and then compared to just 3 threats as a whole? What do we think of Gorgon in comparison?
I think Gorgon is more of a established archetype in the game. Karnak is kind of got his own thing going with some mechanics that make him a little more unique than Gorgon. Gorgon reminds me a lot of an Inhumans version of Scourge. He trades in the aggressive for charge, but like they both have taunt. They They both have a physical strike with like a wild condition. They both have a range 3/8 dice spender. They both have the same stat line. I mean, 6/5 with 4/3/3. It's a good bruiser stat line. I think the best thing on this card is the spender, but having anybody with taunt just makes your opponent have difficult decisions sometimes, and having rerolls on your attacks is always good. Well, defense obviously too, but like it's kind of a pseudo extra attack die. The beam is interesting. It doesn't gain any power, but 4 dice with the reroll, it's not nothing. You could definitely make it work, especially on a character who has charge. You can set up some stuff where you just get like a double optimal beam at basically 5 dice each, which is pretty good. Pretty good. I like him. He's not reinventing the wheel. I don't think he's overpowered or anything, but I think he's solid.
David, what do you think?
I mean, I really like him. I feel like you just like throw this guy at your opponent and go, okay, deal with this guy or don't. I don't really care. I'm probably just going to punch you a bunch and eventually I'm going to like stagger and throw you.
So it's 4/3/3, and he's got his reroll, but he's 6/5. Is there a worry that he's just going to be relatively easy enough to just take off the board?
I mean, 4 physical is 4 physical with a reroll. It's still good on a 3 threat.
And
Like-
I suppose that's part of the dynamic too. Is like, okay, yeah, go ahead, hit my 3 threat.
Yeah, exactly. Like if they're throwing their bigger character into your 3 threat, do you really care, right?
Right. Alex, what do you think?
I like him. He's a 3 threat. He's got good attacks. I don't think he's necessarily super squishy. He's not like super tanky either, but he's got like that archetype kind of where he's just going to be a nuisance, a 3 threat nuisance. It also makes me think like you definitely play his tactics card first. I feel for the first, excuse me, not first, but for the first attack. So that way your opponent gets stunned and shocked, and then he can taunt the second attack as long as he has 2 power. So I think he's super solid. I really like him for a 3 threat.
And we went over he's got the same tactics card, Royal Guardians, that Karnak had. Any kind of last thoughts on Gorgon before we move on to the last of the bunch, the leader of the bunch? Okay, then the last character is Maximus the Mad, Maximus Boltagon. He has 2 physical, 3 energy, 5 mystic, 6 health, size 2, medium move. He is a 4 threat. He has 6 health on his back as well. He's got 2 attacks. The first is a builder. It's a mystic, brain freeze. Range 4, 5 dice. Power equal damage dealt. On a wild, he gets suppressive. After the attack is resolved, the character loses 1 power for each wild in the attack roll. And then his spender is another mystic, Neuro Annihilation. Range 3, 9 dice for 5 power. The defending character cannot add additional dice to its defense roll or modify its defense dice. And on a wild, the target character gets staggered. JP, what do you think of his stat line and his attack suite?
Oh. Anytime someone has 2 physical, it just sucks because
little scary.
They get kind of double fucked because physical attacks are the most common ones in the game, and every throw that you take in the game is going to be based on a physical dodge. So 2, without any kind of like a lot of times when someone has 2, they'll have some kind of tech to help them with throws at least. Unless your name is Xavier. But I mean, Maximus definitely does not have anything on his card. So, and the Inhuman reroll does not work with dodges. So,
That's right.
He is just his dick is hanging in the wind, ready to catch all those kiosks.
Well, the other thing about that too is the game has, over the last bunch of releases, right? So many more terrain throws have been entered into the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's terrain throws on a lot of people, just kind of like randomly too. Just, oh, well, this guy has a size 3 terrain throw too. Whatever. Seems like it gets kind of punched onto kits just to fill out the card, maybe. His attacks are good. Like his builder's not amazing, but it's range 4 and it's mystic. I guess that's still goodish. It's not as good as it used to be, but his spender though, holy shit. His spender's really good. He basically, anyone who's played this card Sacrifice knows that when you roll your defense dice, you feel really sad, and he basically makes whoever he's attacking into a pseudo sacrifice roll, because they can't add defense dice or modify.
Yeah, you're just stuck with your first one on your original dice pool.
You know,
Yeah, you can't add crits either.
Yeah, you're hexed, and you
Yeah.
can't mod. And it's 9 dice with a reroll.
And if you survive it, you're probably staggered.
Yeah.
Alex, what do you think?
Boy, a lot of kiosks are going that guy's way. Yeah, I mean JP covered everything that I and David they both covered kind of what I was going to say about him. His too physical is just a huge problem. If he had some sort of rule that gave him extra dice, or like a Magneto's helmet, or Mysterio, something, just give him something. I'm sick of seeing these characters with too physical, and they see some sort of like hybrid car coming at their face, and they're doomed.
Yeah. Well, let's go over his superpowers because he does get a little bit of help. We'll see if it's worth it. He's got Did you forget why you're here? It's 2 power. Choose a character within 3 with an activated token. Advance that character short. The superpower can only be used once per turn. It's Madness, my favorite kind, reactive. When an enemy character within 3 of this character makes an attack during the modified dice step, this character may use this superpower. This character re-rolls 2 of the attacking character's dice. That's for 2 power. He gets his Inhuman re-roll for attack or defense dice, and he's immune to poison. So, with his superpower suite, David, does the reactive, how much does that offset his 2 physical defense? Obviously, it doesn't help when he gets kiosk to the face, but just in terms of physical attacks, how much does that being able to re-roll the attacker's dice help him out?
Well, let me say that Dynamo wishes his reroll thing was as good as this guy's, because the timing step on it is like it's great. Like you're just like, you basically get the last choice of what to reroll.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to pay before and then not know what the outcome is. I mean, it's really good. The problem is going to be that like he seems one of those characters that you kind of want to hide in your backline, and so I don't know how much use of this he's gonna get.
Because it's got to be within 3.
Yeah, because it's got to be with 3. I mean, it's really good.
Yeah. JP, what do you think?
I agree with David. I've played Dynamo a decent amount, and I have paid for Dynamo superpower a lot and not ended up using it. I guess the saving grace of Dynamo is that he has a range 4 gainer beam, so that dude is just swimming in power.
Right.
Maximus, I don't see him swimming in power with just a range 4 or 5 dice attack. And yeah, range 3 from Maximus. It really hurts because he's going to probably be your leader too. So he's got 2 physical and he's your leader. It just like Professor Xavier and him can have a pity party together.
Well, we're gonna put a pin in that. Alex, what do you think of his did you forget why I'm here? His ability to move around characters with an activated token. That's kind of an interesting twist on that power.
Yeah, it's similar to Jean Grey. Jean Grey has the exact same power, if I remember
does she?
correctly. It might be cheaper than hers. I can't remember.
Jeans is push. Jeans is not advance.
Oh, it's a push. Okay. So hers is actually, or his is a little bit better. I feel.
Well, hers is also not once per turn.
Right. Okay. Well, point is, I like the superpower, and it's not limited to enemies or friendlies, so you could do it on either or. So it gives you a little bit more maneuverability within the affiliation again. So it gives options. I like it. It's not the best thing in the world. It's not the worst because like I think Bow is just better. Yeah, it's okay. It's 2 power. It's not bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
so-
anytime you can move an enemy model is good. I am curious how often he's going to be using this though, because he's going to want to save power so he can force rerolls on opposing attacks, so he doesn't just get nuked.
Well, he's probably also going to want to be saving up for that spender.
Yeah, he's going to be his power management is going to be kind of difficult.
Okay, so let's get into his leadership. Call me Maximus the Magnificent. The first time each turn an allied character attacks or defends, during the modified dice step, it must use this leadership. Reroll one of its attack or defense dice. If the rerolled result is a skull, after the attack is resolved, your opponent places the allied character within one of its current position, and this character gains a power. JP, is this any good? Is this any good?
I mean, I think I like it more than you guys. When I say like, I don't mean like, but
yeah,
I don't want to wipe my ass with it. I think it's fine. I think sometimes it's gonna feel bad. When I say sometimes, I don't think it's gonna happen a lot, but it might happen at a critical time where you don't want it to happen, and then it's gonna feel bad.
Right, because it's the first attack or defense in a turn. You have to reroll even if you like the attack, and it theoretically could end up worse.
Yes, but the chances of these things happening are not great. Like you're probably the net. It's a net positive for sure, and it's a free leadership, and you get it on your attack and defense. So you're essentially rolling a lot of free dice, and every once in a while, it's gonna feel bad. Like that's just the way it is. It's not the best leadership in the game. I think it's passable though. I think it's fine.
Yep. Alex, I think I heard your response too. What do you think of it?
Pew. I don't like it that much, honestly. Like the one good thing to it, I'll give 1.5. Uh, you get a reroll. Like I agree with JP. It's a lot of rerolls, but if you spike out, there's a good chance it just ends up sucking. And then double suck if you roll a skull. But if you roll that skull, Maximus does get a power out of it, so it's kinda. That's why I give it the 1.5 good things. I don't like it though. I just don't like it in comparison to OG Black Bolt, like old Black Bolt's leadership. His is, I just think, way better, and I don't know if this is good enough to not take Black Bolt's leadership for Inhumans.
David, what do you think?
I personally think this leadership is dog shit, but I hate like not having agency on it. Like the fact that like you don't have any control of when it could happen or where you get placed. Like that's just gonna like there's gonna be I guarantee you there's gonna be a game you're gonna play a game where you go, oh, I'm gonna walk onto this point and punch this person. Oops, now I rolled a skull. I rerolled into a skull. Now I get placed off the point and I don't score it.
Yep.
Like it's just bad. I can't. But it's not I mean it's probably way less likely to happen than I feel like it will, but it's just like I hate having that thought process of like this could go bad. Well, and the other thing too is it's going to be on your opponent to make sure that you use the reroll, right? Because it's not a may, you have to do it. So
Yep.
like your opponent's going to have to like be like, "Oh, did you use your reroll?" You have to use your reroll.
Yeah, and it's the first time each turn. So if you've got if you're 5 wide and your opponent's 5 wide, you're almost certainly getting 10 rerolls in the turn or in a round, which I mean when you say when I initially read it I thought this thing's garbage. And the more I've kind of read it and thought through it, the more I think I'm probably leaning towards JP's place where it's fine. Cuz I guess when you say it out loud it's like you get 10 free rerolls. And yeah, I mean sometimes it's going to go bad and if a skull comes up 1 and 8 and you have 10 rerolls in a round, probably once a round your character's going to get you're going to get relocated and it's probably going to happen at the worst. But it's still 10 free rerolls, so I mean it's not I guess I can see its value, but you're right, you don't have any. I guess I just don't know why you would take this over original Black Bolt unless you want to take King Black Bolt, and then you could always, hey, spoiler alert, we could also be taking Medusa's new leadership, which we'll chat about here in just a second. So I guess I kind of feel the same way. It's like maybe if you're really want to run Inhumans and you really want to run King Black Bolt and Medusa's not an option, maybe you're sort of stuck with it. But I guess I just don't know why you'd ever be in a circumstance where you'd be like, yeah, and the way this list is going to really shine is Maximus's leadership.
You also have to figure that you're running Inhumans, so they all have an inherent reroll as well.
Right.
So you're getting 2 rerolls on your first attack, which is kind of like Defender's Daredevil territory almost, which is not bad. I think it's going to translate into like if you roll out of if you roll like full successes, right, and you have to reroll out of one. Okay, well then you just use your inhuman reroll to roll it again,
Right.
and possibly hit it back into a success. So that's not like that big of a deal. If you don't roll full successes, you just use the Maximus leadership reroll first, and then whatever. If it rolls into a success, you're good. If it doesn't, then you use your Inhumans, and you might bump it up to full successes. And I think. Go ahead.
Does it matter what order they go in? In other words, at least the way I was reading it, I guess I was thinking you have to do Maximus's reroll first. Am I reading that right?
No.
So you can do it. You can go whatever order you want. You can
Yeah.
do your Inhuman reroll first, and then your Maximus reroll.
Yeah, because they're both during the modified dice step.
Okay.
So for the people out there who are gonna like potentially use this leadership, you also have to be aware that you're gonna have to tell your opponent which reroll you're using,
Right.
so that they know which to check for the skull.
Right.
Thank you for saying that, David. I was just going to say it.
But I feel like having a free offensive reroll on top of an Inhuman reroll is just going to be. It's going to translate to a lot of damage. I think it's going to be kind of crazy. Not crazy, but it's going to be better than you guys are giving it credit for, I think.
Yeah, I think I've gotten from garbage to just meh on the leadership. He has one tactics card. It is Plots Within Plots. It is an unaffiliated reactive. During the power phase, Maximus the Mad may play 4 power to spend this card, or to play this card. Until the next cleanup phase, once per turn, when an enemy character ends a movement within 2 of an allied character, after the attack is resolved, an allied character not within 2 of the enemy character may advance short. David, what the hell does this card mean?
I mean, it's got a lot going on.
It's Plots Within Plots.
So, I mean, it's a lot of power to spend. I think it's good. I don't know. I would have to see it on the table to actually understand where to get the value out of it. I do like it because you can trigger it yourself because it says a movement, which anything is a movement. So if you throw somebody within 2 of an allied character, you can just move somebody else, which I think is pretty cool.
Right.
Especially with all of the displacement that all of these Inhumans have. Like that could be a lot of movement.
Right.
I just don't know. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things, right? Like, when is Maximus going to have the power to play this card? And like, I mean, I think it's really good. I just don't know. It's one of those things that you would have to see it on the table to know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But like trying to like describe it off the table is just weird because it's like, yeah, you could get in scenarios where somebody moves onto a point and then you go, okay, well, I'm going to move this character way over here onto the other point. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you could do a lot of things with it because I appreciate that there's no like the character just has to be not within 2 of the particular character that made the movement. So, like, I mean, you have a lot of options, right?
Right.
I think this card gets more value on the spread out crisis. Something like, something like a D or a B or something like that. On Gamma, it's a little bit more tricky because everybody's probably going to be within 2 of everybody on that.
Well, and it's probably more valuable against something like, against defenders or against teams that have a lot of characters that want to be within 2. So if you're it's probably less valuable a gunline team that wants to shoot you from range.
Well, and I mean, you could do interesting things with this. Like, I like it with you can like combine this with like Gorgon's taunt, where you like somebody moves close to a character, then you move Gorgon in so that he can taunt, right? Like, I think that there's definitely plays with it, or even somebody like OG Bolt. Right now, you can move OG Bolt so he can bodyguard.
Yep. Alex,
I
what do
think
you
there's
think?
a lot of play of it.
Yeah. Alex, what do you think of the card?
It's neat. I mean, David covered a lot of it too. I think there's a neat play pattern with it when it comes to intrusions. And I just the one downside to it I feel is it's a lot of power, and I'm just gonna call him Mad Max because we all know that's what Marvel was trying to do, but they couldn't. I just think Max can have a power problem with everything that he's got going on because he definitely is going to want to use his superpowers as much as possible. But I don't think he's going to be able to generate power enough. And I mean, he's going to want to use that spender as much as possible too. So I think he's going to have a power problem. And that tactics card, it's super super good for what it can do. It just is a little expensive.
JP, what do you think?
It is out of activation movement, which they've rotated most of those cards because they were too good, evidently. What do we have? Like Shield Mobile.
Avengers Assemble.
Assemble. I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, you can make an argument for like
To me, my X-Men.
Yeah.
There's not many. You're right.
And those are all really good cards. Like I think four power is expensive, but it's probably costed correctly for this card because you have an opportunity to use it a lot.
So
one thing I just noticed.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
It's unaffiliated. JP, if you said that, I'm sorry. My phone broke up a little bit, but it is an unaffiliated tactics card, so it's interesting with that because all the other ones that were mentioned are affiliation specific.
Does the Maximus? I mean, he's gonna usually end up getting probably at least 1 to 2 power a turn just off of his leadership too. Does that factor in, do you think, as to the cost of the card?
Well, he doesn't gain a power. The character that rolls the skull.
No, I think Max
power.
does. I think Max gains it.
Does it? Is it? I thought it says the character that.
It says this character.
This character.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Max gets it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's he doesn't get the Dracula save.
I like plots within plots. I think it's cool. I think it's gonna reward thoughtful play. And I don't think the power cost is gonna be that big of a deal because you don't really need to rush this card. Right. It's gonna be a good card later in the game, so
it probably gets better as the game goes on, I would think.
Yeah. Agree. I like it.
Okay. Well, we've got one more to go over, but let's go over just the characters.
Can I say something about Mid-Max?
Yeah, please do.
So go ahead and everybody take a shot because I think this guy is fantastic in Convocation.
What makes him good in Convocation?
Well, one, he's an all mystic attacker, which is fantastic with Poldak. He um his ability, so you can use the bump to like get in range to like use his rerolls.
Mhm.
And books obviously is fantastic for him, right? Because then he becomes 5 physical.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah, oh
thing too is that card that we just talked about. So with the convocation leadership, you could do ridiculous things. Like you could bump a character out of 2 to have somebody end a movement so that you can move them somewhere else. And you can do stupid things like Strange could scalpel a character to within 2 of somebody else so that you can move somebody.
yeah,
Or like there's just like, man, there's just a lot of possibilities with that card, especially since it's unaffiliated.
right.
Ugh. I think he's going to be really good in convocation.
Well, I suspect we're probably gonna be finding that out pretty soon. Okay, just kind of where do we see? Well, let me hold off on that. I was gonna ask a question about where we see as uh as an affiliation itself, but I think we probably can't do that until we go over and talk about the other card that's in the box, which is Inhuman Queen. It is an
Real quick,
Inhuman.
Patrick.
Yeah.
There's 2 more tactics cards in there.
Oh, did I miss one?
Well, it's Inhuman Queen, and then it's in Homo Supremus or something like
Oh,
that.
I sure did. You're right.
There's actually one more too, because there's the one that's Rainbow Bridge and
Oh, you're right. I did. So let's go over those. Uh, so let's go over. Let's team tactics. I was clearly super well prepared for this. So let's go in Homo Supremus. It requires an Inhumans affiliation. It is reactive. During the power phase, an Inhumans character may spend 4 to play this card. This round, while an allied Inhumans character is making an attack and is within 3 of one or more other allied Inhumans characters, when it uses the Inhuman superpower to reroll dice, it may reroll 1 additional die in its attack roll. Alex, why don't you explain this card and tell me if it's any good.
I- to start, I think it's pretty good. It's doubles up on your rerolls as Inhumans. The only downside to it is only one model gets to spend the 4 power, so it can be a little expensive. But being able to double down on your rerolls, I think, is worth it. Having to be within range 3 of another Inhumans character is neat. But do remember that it is Inhumans character, not a character with the Inhuman superpower. So that'll let you include Beast, Quicksilver, and Ronin.
Right.
but they can't benefit from it.
Correct. They would not be able to benefit from it, but other Inhuman superpower rerolls, like if they have that superpower, they'll benefit with those 3 being within 3.
So I'm gonna say that this card is fantastic with King Bolt, right? All of a sudden his freaking his beam becomes, 7 dice with 2 rerolls. Holy crap. Like that's insane.
All he's got to be within 3 of another allied Inhuman.
Yeah, but he has hit and run, right? Like
Right.
it's not gonna be that hard to do.
Getting King Bolt where he wants to go is not going to be a problem at all.
No, and the other thing too is King Bolt can also like he can use his like superpower to like advance somebody into range 3 already, right?
That's true. JP, what do you think of in Homo Supremus?
I would have liked to see it add an additional die to defense too. I don't know why they limited it to attack. It seems a little expensive at 4. I mean, it's fine. I don't think it's going to be an affiliation defining card or anything, but I mean, it's fine. It translates to damage. Like you're taking power, making it into damage with the Texas card, and
Right.
those cards have kind of just dried up for the most part. You can only find them in affiliation, so.
Mhm. Are there Inhumans character? I just can't think of one off the top of my head. Are there Inhumans characters that kind of have power to spare?
Well, I think this benefits the Inhumans characters that will make multiple attacks in an
Sure.
activation, like Medusa and Bolt and Crystal, right? Like all of these type of characters, I think will get the most benefit out of it. Especially Crystal, right? Because Crystal has like she's got
Yeah,
like
beams, and she can
she's got
throw
beams
3
and
attacks.
areas. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, and anything that can help her output her attacks is certainly going to be worth it. Okay, the other card that I totally forgot is the Great Refuge. It is an Inhumans active card. An Inhumans character with an active leadership ability may spend any amount of power to play this card. For each 2 power spent to play this card, choose an allied Inhumans character without an objective token. Place each chosen character within 3 of its current location. JP, what do we think of the Great Refuge?
So it has to be your active leader, and they have to spend 2 power for each. I mean, I guess it's cheaper than Rainbow Bridge and the combo one, right? They have to spend 3 each on those, right?
Yeah, they got to spend 3.
So, I mean, you're kind of getting a discount, but you're having to spend it off your leader all at once. And that, I don't know. The fact that it's writing on one character makes it a little awkward. Like Rainbow Bridge, okay, you daze one of my people, but like all my other people can play it if they want. This is like, if you daze my leader, I can't play the card. Don't like that. Anytime you can, move characters out of activation or in activation, whatever. It's good. Like range 3 is crazy good movement. I don't think it's a bad card. I think like Asgard kind of came into Rainbow Bridge a little more after they got good. Like the cards, the Asgard cards proved to be more powerful than they had been, even though nothing changed with the cards. Like, that was just completely based on the power level of Asgard themselves. So, a card like Odin's Blessing, like it was good before, but now that Asgard is the top dog, Odin's Blessing is criminally insane. And I think Rainbow Bridge kind of caught some of that success too. I think that card is really, really good. Being able to just move big beater threats around the board, range 3, is pretty good. So I don't know. Maybe if Inhumans is insane, like the range 3 will be good. I think. I don't know. Like the new Bolt seems kind of like the beater guy, and he has a lot of movement already. So I don't know. It also depends on how you want to play Inhumans too, because like when you're dropping objectives, it's no good. But if you're playing like beatdown Inhumans with maybe this and that other card that lets you gain 2 VPs. And you're like trying to play beatdown or something. You have a beatdown list. You're gonna have fewer extracts on the board if you come up with your extracts, and it's less disincentive to play this card. So I don't know. It's a good card. Anytime you can port multiple people range 3, it's like you can't poo poo it.
David, what do you think?
So, well, I guess the first question I have is where does a medium base with a range 3 place, does that get you to mid on round 1?
No.
Yeah, it's just short, right?
So a medium base, medium move gets you within range 2 because of eyes on the prize, right? So the difference between a medium stick and a range 3 stick is not 2 inches.
Yeah,
I don't know exactly
it's
what
one.
it is, but
It's 1 inch, right? Because
yeah.
a range 3 is 6 inches and a medium is 5.
I think a large base could get either, but there's no large base in Humans.
Yeah, large base could get either. So if there was some way you could get like Bolt to get up there on round 1 where he's like in the middle of the table and can like double beam like on round 1, I could see some plays with this card. But like I think it's still good because the range 3 place is a range 3 place. It's fantastic. The fact that you have to spend it on the leader is very, it's gonna be weird, I think. But I don't hate it on OG Bolt, right? Like if you want to just place OG Bolt up and then he's just like instantly punching the middle of the table on round 1, right? I mean, that's kind of good.
Yeah, I see where you're going. So OG Bolt starts at 2 power, and he can also pass power, so you can actually play this card around 1.
Right.
Like as opposed to you're taking New Bolt, so you're taking Medusa or Maximus, who starts with 1 power, and you don't have the old Bolt power to give them a power to be able to play the card. So yeah, I can see that, like as just a tempo, like out the gate type of tactics card rather than like a deeper waters later round type card. If you could port old Bolt up range 3 and start blasting people, it might be worth looking into. Like people already do it with the Medusa flip. So I don't know.
Well, and I mean, you could, like you could feed Bolt 2 power, right? And then like at some point in the round you port him up and then maybe port somebody else, right?
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because then he'd have 4 power.
Yeah. Who would be a good target for that?
Yeah, that would be the thing. I mean,
Karnak and Gorgon aren't great.
Yeah, I don't think you want to do it with them. I mean, Medusa's probably fine, but like, I mean, maybe you could use it to like port somebody back, but I don't know why you want to do that because they'd be holding an objective, which then they couldn't do it. So
yeah. Oh, the other thing is like you have Lockjaw in affiliation too. I don't know. I'm not an Inhumans player. I don't know how often Lockjaw is getting run, but this is kind of like Lockjaw in a tactics card. I don't know how good that redundancy is. It's probably not good at all. But I mean, you can do the same thing with just a Lockjaw and save a card, but then you have a Lockjaw tax, I guess.
yeah, that's the problem, right? I think Karnak and Gorgon are just so much better 3s that like you're probably going to be running them instead of Lockjaw.
Yeah, I don't know. Not an Inhumans player. I don't hate Lockjaw on paper, but like he's a good battery. He's got the ports. Like his attack isn't great, but he gets a reroll on it, and he's got a size 3 throw. He's not terrible. I don't think he's amazing, but
I mean, I
he's
do
got
think there's things you could do with the card, right? But
yeah.
I don't know.
I'd have to sit down and think about it. It just like bolt up the middle is probably the thing I'm thinking of. That's the best. I guess
I mean, yeah. Like the
throwing
advantage him
Medusa
is
range 3 is pretty good too. Like she can hit midline with like 2 attacks. I guess it's fine.
yeah. I mean, that's good. I mean, yeah, I do like the idea of just throwing Bolt up there just easily, right? Like he could just spend the 2 power and he goes up to mid and he's now shooting people, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, another thing is maybe so could you engineer like a great refuge into a royal decree from Medusa? Maybe. So like you could feed Bolt 2 power across your first 2 activations, and then maybe Medusa could get extra if you have it, and then you port both of them up, and then Medusa could activate an attack, and then maybe gen some power to flip in front of Bolt, and then flip Bolt to mid. I don't know. You could do some some leapfroggy stuff if you can gen power.
Yeah, you probably could.
Because the Royal Decree is not once per turn, I don't think.
No, it's not. So she could hop and then hop somebody off too.
Yeah. And it only costs 2. I don't know. It's interesting. You could do some tempo-y stuff with it, maybe. Definitely worth a look.
So let's get into the last card that we got is does go back to Medusa. It's Inhuman Queen. It's an Inhumans reactive card. When you would normally pick an active ship, if squad is Inhumans affiliated and contains Medusalith, Amaquellan, Boltagon, she may play this card. Medusalith, Amaquellan, Boltagon gains the following leadership ability: Queen of the Inhumans. Once per turn, when an allied character dazes or KOs an enemy character, it may gain 1 power, may remove up to 1 damage, and may advance short. So, David, what do we think of the tactics card leadership that we've got now for the Inhumans?
So I think this leadership is pretty good, actually. I'm still a little bit like I'm not exactly a fan of all these tactics cards leadership because I hate the fact that they eat into your tactics cards.
Yep.
But for what it is, I think it's pretty good. It's definitely, I mean, it's kind of like, it's a lot like Mao's leadership, just like the character that that does the dazing, or it's daze and KO, right?
Daze or KO an enemy character, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're gonna be playing beatdown, right? Like this is a good leadership.
Right. And it doesn't say non-grunt, so it works on grunts too.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's gonna be like super annoying when you're killing people's grunts and then moving small, gaining a power, and removing a damage.
Yep. Alex, what do you think of the leadership?
I think it's good. I like it. Except the goddamn tactics slot it takes. I hate that. Hate it so much. AMG, stop it. I think it's good. Having the option where if you don't like Mad Max's leadership, but you want to play with 6 threat bolt, this gives you a different option. So I like it enough for that aspect. But I swear to God, please, please, AMG, stop with the tactics card leaderships.
JP, what do you think?
I think it helps that it's attached to a character, the best affiliated Inhumans character not named Black Bolt.
Yeah.
I mean, Medusa's a beast. Giving her leadership is fine. Like, the leadership's good. People love the Mal leadership. Like David said, this is very akin to Mal. It lets you have sort of kind of hit and run, but like better, or it can be used more aggressively to advance toward. It's really good. It's powerful. I think it's going to reward good play for sure. And it sucks that it takes a tactics slot. Like I'm not a big fan of that, but you do have to keep in mind that it's taking the place of your 5th best tactics card. It's not like it's taking a restricted slot like Hellfire or something. Like, it's just the 5th card that you would have taken. So
Kind of feels like. Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
And that can mean different things to different affiliations, right? Some affiliations just have a plethora of stupidly good cards, and others, the cards are fine, but they don't hurt as bad if you lose one. So I don't know. I'd have to really review. Inhumans just got a huge influx of new tactics cards. I'd have to review to see where I think they are on a power level, but a lot of them, I don't know. I feel like this is fairly easy to squeeze into 5. Like, you get your 2 restricted Inhuman Queen, and then whatever. Pick 2 of these wacky, weird Inhumans cards, and you're set.
So that's a lot. And it feels like Inhumans were sort of a forgotten affiliation a little bit. And now we have this huge influx of both characters and tactics cards. Where do you think Inhumans were sort of on the affiliation tier list? And where do you think they sit now? David, we'll start with you on that question.
I think OG Bolt, his glow up was, OG Bolt's a good character.
Mm-hmm.
His leadership is really good. I think it's going to be hard to. I think the veteran Inhumans players are going to have a tough time deciding whether they want to bring OG Bolt or King Bolt or both.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be a hard decision, right? Because I think with OG Bolt's leadership, there's a lot of things that you can plan around, right? Like, you can do a lot of round 1 shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
And building characters to plan around that, like, especially with like what is Karnak? Karnak has meditate, right? So Karnak can like move somewhere, pick up an objective, and pass a power and meditate, right?
Yep.
Like, those kind of things are gonna be. It would be very hard to pass up Bolt's leadership. But at the same time, King Bolt is really good. So, like, that's going to be a dilemma to figure out. So I think Inhumans have always kind of been like a middle kind of tier affiliation, right? Like, they've been like, they're good enough, and a skilled pilot can do well with them, but I think with this new set of stuff, it remains to be seen what they'll do. Like, I gotta see how that stacks to, like, I mean, take Mad Max for example. I think somebody like Party Thor eats Max's lunch, right?
Mm.
Like, because he just pounces into him and punches
Yeah.
him, and he goes away, right? I so I don't know where I think they are, but I think there will be some interesting. I mean, it's gonna be new, so people are gonna play them. I think they have a lot of powerful characters now, so it could be good for them.
Alex, where do you think? What do you think about where? What do you think about how the affiliations changed with the new box?
Well, I think like currently, I think they're, and this is just a speculation based off of how common I see them in tournaments. I think they're like a C plus tier right now, maybe B minus, and I think this gets them up to like an A minus just on paper. I don't know if I can say that they're S tier. An A minus might even be a little much just seeing it on paper, but I think it definitely helps them because like they didn't have too many great characters to begin with. Like Black Bolt with his glow up that he got from the updates, it really helped them. But even then, I don't think that really pushed them to be more common in tournaments. I think these characters will definitely help them out. I think they'll become more popular, not just because of the new shiny, but just overall. I think it's going to make them more popular because they'll be better. And I mean, as we all know, when it comes to the game, options are always better. They didn't have as many options before this box, and with this box, they get two more leaders out of it, and they get four different characters. So they'll definitely get played because they'll have more options, and people like options.
JP, what do you think? Where's this leave Inhumans as an affiliation?
Well, it goes without saying that all the shit we're talking about is super hot take.
Of course.
Because I totally called the Asgard box wrong. I didn't think it was gonna shift the meta too much, and it ended up being like the new meta. So eventually, took a while, but they ended up being a lot better than I thought they would. I knew Fat Thor was gonna be good, but I did not. I wasn't planning on how dominant they would be. So with that in mind, I'm kind of hesitant to even call anything. Like the Asgard box, it was kind of like I was a big fan of the old Thor, the OG Thor leadership. So like the having to sacrifice that leadership to take Party Thor was kind of a hurdle for me. So I'm seeing shades of that here with the two bolts. I think I don't know if someone wants to stay on the old bolt train. I don't know how much this box is going to change things because you can't play New Bolt and you can't play Medusa's leadership. So you get 2-3 threats who are good, but I don't know. I just don't see those 2-3 threats like catapulting Inhumans into relevance. I think a lot of I think a lot of the future success of Inhumans is gonna rest on people running New Bolt and uh the Medusa leadership. And if we don't see that, we might see Bolt like the sixth threat future is crazy with like Gladiator and New Bolt coming out. Like it's gonna be kind of crazy. We'll see. Like I think New Bolt has the potential to be a really strong meta piece. He just has so much potential. Like he throws so many dice that he opens the potential for just spiking. Like when you're throwing like 7 dice beams, you're gonna spike sometimes, and the control on the beam is just crazy. So I think we're probably gonna see him splashed, my guess. And I don't know. We'll have to see if he's good enough to make the affiliation good, but I think he's gonna be showing up in the meta. I just don't know if it will be as an affiliated Inhuman model. Like I said, I think people are probably gonna experiment with New Bolt and Medusa leadership, and um, it's gonna be that's gonna kind of determine how good they are. Like old Bolt is great, but like the tricks are there already, and I don't think this box really gives them new tricks. So I think they were probably like in the B tier somewhere before, and I mean they might still stay in the B tier, or maybe New Bolt is just insane, and being able to take him as an affiliated model will put them into like a higher tier.
Well, I'll be the hot takey one about this. I I don't think New Bolt is good enough to warrant anybody not taking Old Bolt's leadership, and so I think this box has got a whole bunch of really good spots. I could see New Bolt going in other places. I could 100% see Karnak and Gorgon going in other places. So I think this box is a great splash box for other affiliations, but I think at best it's a push in terms of where the Inhumans leadership stays. I think it's it was mid before, and I think it's mid now. If you like the characters and you want to play them, I think you play them. I I I don't think this is going to do anything in terms of changing Inhuman stands as an affiliation, other than it'll get a bump in play because everybody's like, "Ooh, shiny new."
Yeah, I mean that leadership is a drug. It's kind of like the Midnight Suns players playing Elsa when she comes, or I guess she's out now, but I think there's going to be, I don't know, the opportunity cost for losing the leadership is going to be kind of what makes or breaks it, I think.
Well, and that's just it. At least with Elsa, I mean, you really aren't. I mean, you're switching your leadership, but you're not having to give something up. I mean, with the way this box is, if you want, you either have to take the new big sixth threat, or you have to take the good leadership. You don't have to make that choice with Elsa. So I am skeptical that this is going to do anything to actually change where the Inhumans is in terms of its affiliations. But I do think the characters that are in it, I think Karnak's bananas, and I think that as a 3 thread, you could see him all over the place. But that's a hot take, and we'll find out. It's a King Black Bolt versus King Black Bolt final in LVO 2026. You can all come back and laugh at me and tell me what an idiot I am. Certainly would not be the first time. Any closing thoughts in terms of the new Inhumans, David?
I mean, I think King Bolt is. I think he's good. Like, I would wager that people are gonna be playing him. We're gonna see a lot of him, I think. Whether or not it's in Inhumans, I don't know. But I mean, he's good.
JP, anything to wrap up?
No, I think I said everything. It's a big box. It's got a lot of tactics cards, a lot of characters. I think Karnak is a really good 3. I think Bolt's a really good 6. We'll have to see where the chips fall. I'm sure there's going to be people out there experimenting and grinding reps with it, and I'm sure there's going to be some lists coming out that are that show promise, but it's just going to take games figure out if they're moving the dial on the affiliation.
Alex, how about you?
I'm just excited for the Inhumans players to get more things to play with. They've been kind of brushed under the rug with new additions. I guess there's only two other affiliations that I can think of that haven't been getting new things, and that's Winter Guard and Sentinels. But there may be others
Convocation!
that I forget.
Convocation.
Oh my god!
Convocation.
Yep. How could I forget Convocation? There's your second shot, people.
Hey, listen, Convocation has not gotten a model since the affiliation came out.
That's technically not true. Reason being is because Wong was added to the affiliation after it came out.
Okay, Sentinels has also
what?
not gotten a new model since it came out, and they have 4, and 2 of them are the same thing.
I mentioned Sentinels first.
You did. You
with
did.
Winter Guard.
I just have to get my salt out.
Hey, Winter Guard got a bunch of models added to them, though.
They did.
They did back when the new starter box came out, and that was over a year ago.
Well, they got the models added to them that they should have had added at the time. So that was just felt like it was just fixing a mistake. But yeah, Winter Guard.
They forgot the Rasputins.
I know. I mean, it's still the Winter Guard's still got its issues, but at least they've had some help, and now the Inhumans have gotten some. And Sentinel's turn to get some help. I mean, I think that's just only fair. Okay, so webheads, we would love to hear from you in terms of what box, how you're planning on using these characters. If you've got a list with the new Inhumans, send us over. We'd love to see it. We'd love to dojo it. Kind of put it under the microscope and see how it works. And we want to hear your stories in terms of how you've seen them play, what they look like on the table. Please don't forget to leave us a review and a rating. Find us out and helps us grow the community. Please follow us on all the socials, Witty Bantercast. Email us at wittybantercast@gmail.com and help us out at patreon.com/wittybantercast. Other than that, until next time, webheads, be good.